We now return to Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Policy Institute, the radio show discussing the honest truth about Illinois policy and politics. Here's AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan Proft back with Pat Hughes, co-founder of the Illinois Opportunity Project, on this edition of Illinois Rising. And Pat, we were just talking about the death spiral that is Illinois with respect to people fleeing, as I like to say, an exodus not seen since the Israelites fled Egypt. That's what's happening in Illinois. So that's part of it. The other part of it is property taxes, right? Essentially the idea that in Illinois, your home isn't really your home. It's collateral for public sector pensions.
Correct.
And with the spiraling increases in property taxes, city and suburbs, and exurbs and downstate, highest property taxes in the nation, you're getting to the point where people are paying for their home another half to full time, in addition to the second time they pay for it over the course of interest payments on a 30-year fixed. Now they're paying for it another half to full time. You're never going to recoup the investment you make in your home because of the level of property taxation in Illinois.
Right, and that's what leads to the exodus that we talked about previously. That's what makes real estate values stay stagnant in Illinois, and I'm in this business, whereas the rest of the country recovered from 2008. And when you have neighboring states, Dan, like Wisconsin and Indiana, that are offering better economic opportunities, nice houses with lower property taxes on someone making a certain income, that has an enormous impact on what their decision-making is, and you can see in the numbers why people are leaving.
Right, and I mean, just the data here, and this is from a piece Mark Glennon wrote in wirepoints.com. In over 150 municipalities, property taxes exceed 3% of the property value, which is double the national average. Illinois has the highest property taxes in the country, writes Glennon, averaging 2.67% of value, according to a study by CoreLogic, which is 78% higher than the national average. And then you have to ask the additional question is, those confiscatory property taxes you're paying, what's the return? Or do you enjoy what you're getting from your local schools, which are the drivers of your property taxes, and other units of government, the layers upon layers of government in Illinois? Are you getting value for what you're paying? And a lot of people are saying they're not. For more on this, we're joined by the aforesaid Mark Glennon from WirePoints. Mark, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hello, Dan. Thank you.
So in the piece, you say that Illinois is becoming a roach motel. Explain.
This is a very scary cliff we're heading towards. I think we're at the point where consumers are going to start concluding that buying real estate in Illinois, particularly homes, is not a safe bet, because prices are at best flat, if not going down, and they'll end up being trapped in an underwater mortgage. We already have a stunning 500,000 homes in Illinois, 20% of them, that are seriously underwater. That is, the value of the home is at least 20% less than the value of the mortgage. This is a fickle matter of consumer preference and expectations. It's like once Ford Pintos got the reputation of blowing up when they got rear-ended, it was the end of Ford Pintos. I think we're getting very close to the point where an overwhelming number of potential buyers see Illinois homes that way. And if they stop buying and this gets a reputation, it's going to snowball and make the situation worse. It's driven primarily, I think, by heavy property taxes, which are over double the national average statewide in Illinois, and as we've discussed before, are just absurd in many of the suburbs, 3, 4, even 5%, averaging 5% in the south suburbs.
Hey, Mark, I have the distinct privilege of being a real estate developer in this market since, before the 2008 crash. And I think that there's a secondary problem that is the result of exactly what you're talking about. I'd like to get your thoughts on it, which is if people aren't buying existing homes in Illinois, then there's no need to increase the inventory of homes, which then limits the construction of homes, which is a gigantic economic engine of any community or any state in terms of the multiple that comes from the construction of homes, concrete, land development, framing, all of the things that go with it, all the product that's bought. and comment on how property taxes not only just impact people not wanting to buy the existing homes, but also how it impacts economic growth as a consequence.
Great point, and that's exactly why the markets see so much on new construction numbers as they come out every month, and that'll be the next problem as a result of the housing situation. I think we've already started to see it start to slack off. There was a boom of new apartment construction in the city, which has led to a pretty good supply right now. My guess is that we've kind of seen the end of new construction like that.
But in the city of Chicago, and I live in Streeterville, so I'm down by Navy Pier, and I see some of those tower cranes and those condo buildings and apartment buildings that have gone up. And you know what it's like in the city. Everybody, you've in the downtown area, the Mag Mile area, a handful of neighborhoods. It looks like this is a city upon a hill. And then you get outside those 5 wards to the other 45 wards, and it looks very different. But with respect to the city center, that throws off 60, 70% of the city's revenue, is there the chance that Chicago, at least parts of Chicago, just become like Manhattan? Just that you just have people that are, and I'll have to move, but people that are so rich they're insulated from bad public policy, and you just kind of have like a Manhattan phenomenon where you have a housing market that's a bit impervious to terrible public policy.
I think we're already there, and those people are living in a bubble. I talk to them often, too, financial types, and they see all the new construction, they see prices going up, but it really is confined to the most affluent areas near the central business district and Lincoln Park and perhaps a few suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
And that has pushed up the numbers a little bit in the past couple months, but it's a tale of two cities and the rest of the state. And I live in a very nice suburb with great schools. It's gotten very soft here, and I've talked to realtors here, and they are very concerned about it. They identify in particular the drop off in corporate relocations coming in.
Yeah.
Frankly, I wouldn't own my home right now if I had my choice. My neighbor had theirs on the market in the fall. They just took it off the market because they weren't getting any showings. I think it's already started to happen.
Well, and so Bruce Rauner, Governor Rauner, understands this as well, and he has made a property tax freeze part of his turnaround agenda. He's reiterated it over the holidays. The form of the property tax freeze, he's left a bit open-ended, other than to say it would necessarily include a requirement for voter approval for any increase above a set freeze. What's your take on the importance of a freeze and what it should look like to be impactful? Because we've gone down this road before of politicians saying, I voted for a property tax freeze. We instituted a property tax freeze. And year after year, your property taxes increase to the point where, as you write in your piece in Wire Points, we pay the highest property taxes in the nation, so not much of a freeze.
Right. Those freezes have been full of holes. It has to be a broad, all-encompassing legislative measure that would trump some of the existing statutes that really force automatic property tax increases. For example, IMFR, the second largest pension in the state, can automatically force municipalities to increase their taxes, property taxes, in whatever it takes amounts to keep IMFRF funded properly. The new legislation for the Chicago Police and Fire Departments also includes automatic property tax increases for Chicago. So you got to have something that really trumps all that. And I would say, by the way, a freeze is just the start. Some of these suburbs that are in death spirals already need a rollback.
Right.
This is immoral. I mean, forget about the economic issues. We have taken away home equity, primarily from working class borrowers. Their down payment on homes is usually the largest part of their life savings. That's been wiped out. It goes far beyond just those 500,000 people that are underwater. There are many hundreds of thousands more that are close to being underwater and wouldn't get anything back on what they put in. This is immoral. We've seized their property and singled them out to pay for our fiscal malfeasance.
Mark, the property taxes in Illinois, a lot of it is tied directly to the local school district, right? And I'm just wondering, can you decouple those things such that it becomes more politically tenable to lower either freeze or lower property taxes because the argument in response is always, well, this is how we pay for our schools. And people, even if they're in schools that aren't so good, they don't like to admit that. And so their philosophy is, well, if it goes to the school and it makes my school better, I'm okay with it, because that's always been the selling point from the other side. Is there any way to decouple that, and would you want to?
Yeah. Well, that gets into the very difficult subject of sharing more revenue from the state and how we're going to fund the school system. Indeed, again, in my district, people are very happy to pay for higher taxes for excellent schools, but that's not true across the board, and I think that's addressed by the provision that Ronner has suggested, that people can, any particular district can opt out of this. And if they want to do that, that's fine. I'm personally a believer in vouchers, and we need to move to that in districts where school districts are failing. But that's a very complicated thing to take on.
He is Mark Glennon. WirePoints is the outlet, wirepoints.com. Always excellent stuff, including his most recent piece, Freeze Property Taxes Now, or Illinois Homes Will Become Roach Motels. Mark Glennon, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Bye-bye.